TJ Scott, your Navy Waves veteran, 1971 to 79, and I want to welcome you to Veterans Forum. Veterans Forum's been on 8 years now, and we have grown all over the Northwest, and I intend to keep growing because there are veterans all over the USA. Now with me today is a very special guest, Army retired Colonel Anthony Tony Monaco.
Yes.
How would you like me to call you, Colonel? Shall I call you Colonel or Anthony or Mr. Monaco? Or Monaco, I guess I could say Your Highness.
Tony's fine. Tony's
Okay,
fine.
okay. Well, here on Veterans Forum, we like to get to know the personalities that was in the military. So give us a little backdrop where you were born and raised, why you went in the military.
Well, my family, I was born in Portland, Oregon, and I
Oh.
was raised for the first 10 years in Oregon, and I moved down with my father, obviously, down to California.
Oh, what area of California were you?
Los Angeles, San Fernando Valley specifically.
Oh, okay.
And my father served in World War II. He was in New Guinea. He was a combat medic.
Army?
Army.
Okay.
And I myself, I was youthful and crazy, and I read this book called Green Beret, and I joined the Army in 1970 to be a Green Beret.
Oh, I'm thinking of that John Wayne movie, Green Beret.
No, that didn't do it. It was the book, and
okay.
and my mother forced me to go out and help the plumber, and I did, and he was an ex-sergeant from the Special Forces, and we talked, and I got charged up. And the reason it's youthful endeavor, because one of the requirements is to be a paratrooper, and they never tell you how to jump out of a jet. You know, you have to actually try to do it in order to get to it. But
right.
I got started there. I was enlisted for 8 years, and I got out, and others got me going. I went to college, and I went to the UCLA ROTC program, got commissioned as an officer, and I retired last year.
Oh, okay. So you went in as an enlisted man, got out, got your GI Bill. That was a major carrot for me because I signed up right after high school. And I wanted those college benefits, and I did use them. So I applaud you for using your GI benefits. Please use your GI benefits. You have that coming to you. So once you became an officer, what kinds of positions did you hold in the Army?
Well, I started off as an artillery officer. I was the one that gave the order to fire tactical nuclear weapons on the battlefield. And I gravitated into human resources and logistics support. And my last 2 assignments, I was assigned to Special Operations Command Central and to the Army Sustainment Command before I got started into a Patriot Outreach project.
Now, have you yourself, because Patriot Outreach, is my understanding, is filling the gap between the time the military person gets out of the military and waits to get into the VA. Is that a fair thing to say?
It's close. What it really is coping strategies is a tool that we use within Patriot Outreach. And it's to bridge the gap between the warrior ethos of I don't need help, and so the first tier is those actually asking for and getting help.
Right.
And the other 95% is the silent majority, is the gap that we're trying to fill. And it can be on active duty, you can be in the reserves, you can be a veteran. And it's just trying to bridge that gap because we are a 501c3 non-profit, non-governmental entity.
Right.
And one of the biggest challenges is people seeking help don't want to be stigmatized. And as a result of that, they can come in, they can look at it, and we have produced over 45 and distributed over 45,000 of our CDs, and we had over 17,000 downloads.
You know, my son didn't experience PTSD, but he was 21 and was told he had a deadly cancer, lymphatic cancer. He had a difficult time wrapping his mind around that. I told him, you need some mental health. There was no way on God's green earth he was going to do that because he was wanting to make the Navy a career like his grandfather. Now, I want to believe those kinds of things have changed in the last 8 years, but I want to believe that you're helping active duty who have maybe that same...
Oh, absolutely.
Don't wait till they're a veteran.
Well, no, that's true. And it was really designed. What happened was I was in the Army clinic to pick up my glasses, and one of my soldiers were there. And I wasn't aware that he was there. So I went over and I asked, and he says, "Sir, they're running more tests." And I go, for what? And he said, my stomach problems. No one can figure out what's wrong. And I go, oh. But then he slowly bent over in a softer tone of his voice. He said, sir, I keep reimagining the soldier I zipped up in a body bag. And I went, oh, and I was helpless. And about 3 weeks later, Colonel Kathleen Petoni, a combat psychiatrist, is a friend of mine, sent me a lot of articles on this. And this is in 2006, when this wasn't a big to-do and everybody was supporting. It was very anti-war, anti-Bush, anti-military in 2006. And as I was reading through the articles, one catchphrase jumped out at me. It says, reimagining the trauma again is the reason for a lot of the problems. And I go, oh, what they need is that exercise that I discovered when I was an enlisted man. I go, oh. And so I brought the two together, and they said, well, it's powerful, effective, great, but it's not really an approved Army program. It wasn't this and this. And I go,
now, how did you stumble? I want to dig here a little deeper. How did you stumble into, we know about the reimagining, but you as an enlisted man, how did you get past that? I mean, this technique you're referring to.
Well, I was introduced to the technique, or one of the tools that we have, through a friend. And as he tried to describe it, he did a dismal job, and so I went to the site. There wasn't a site, I went to their place and got copies of the materials and actually did it myself, and it was really amazing.
Okay, now, I'm not going to get into my stuff here, but most people have had some level of trauma in their life at some point, or heartbreak, and for me, I decided I needed to, like a television, change channels or refocus and stop focusing on what the issue was, because I was helpless to do anything about it. It happened. I don't want to be delusional, but you can't keep living in that space. You can't keep living in that space.
Well, let me one of the articles that we have is from a warrior named Amber. And the story on that is she was a soldier that had an injury on her foot. And I'm in a military town, and in this town my daughter knew her because they were in junior ROTC together.
Oh, I see.
And she was becoming a real troublesome soul. And she came to me and says, could you talk to her, Dad? I know you're doing this stuff. And I said, sure. And I called, and her temperament was strong. And I go, wow. And after about 10, 15 minutes, I go, you know, I need to get you one of these coping strategy CDs we hand out to troops. And she goes, oh, I got one. And apparently my daughter gave it to her. I got one. I've had it for a month and a half. And I says, really? I said, you know that old saying, I can lead a horse to water, but I can't make him drink?
Yes.
And she said, oh. Next day, I get this email. And I was so touched, I forwarded it. And the benefactor was so touched, he had it published. And if you read it, it says, it took a kind soul like you to remind me I had something in my head all along. I didn't think it applied to me because I was coping.
Right.
And I thought I was handling my pain.
Right.
But actually doing it, thank you, thank you, thank you. Because when you read the letter, it had a lot of tell signs. And suicides are very prevalent in the military community.
Yes, very sadly so.
And tell signs, when you read the letter, it says, I feel hopeless. I feel like I'm a burden. I feel like the pain is too much. I feel like I have no future. And I feel, you know, how many tell signs do you want before the pain and trying to handle it? And basically what it is it's recreating that endless loop of thought, and it keeps driving the temperament. And the exercise is designed to break those endless loop of thoughts. And that's one of the coping strategies we have there. We have a lot of articles and videos and
give the people out there your web page, because this affects a lot of people in the military. But make no mistake, people can have PTSD, and it didn't have to be a military experience at all.
Absolutely. You know, this is just packaged for the military community.
Right.
We're the only organization I know of that include battlefield contractors, government civilians, because we forget they're on the battlefield too.
That's right.
All veterans, all retirees, all active reserve components, and family members.
Right.
If you're one of those, you can go to our site, and we will give you a complimentary CD to cope with the issues you have.
And what is your web page address?
It's patriotoutreach.org. and it's one word, and it's patriotoutreach.org. And for those of you who are blessed and have means and resources, we appreciate help get the word out.
Right.
Hope, basically, one of the things that we designed was a Patriot Outreach Coping Strategy card, because if I went to you and I said, I really think you're messed up, here, take this, you would redirect it. But if you just say, hey, just check it out, and there's a lot of touching testimonials and a lot of success stories. I could have brought in a stack full of people who said, thank you, thank you, thank you. It's more of a grassroots thing than it is institutional top-down.
Right.
But although institutionally, the chief psychiatrist, Walter Reed, endorsed us and actually uses the exercise, the chief of chaplains had a committee of the guys from the suicide committee, and I went through an hour-and-a-half interview, and we went through all the processes, and they did a lot of field research, and they came back saying that this is a tool for all chaplains to use. And one of the other letters we have is from a chaplain of Southern Baptist who says it has helped him bridge the gap. Because when he says, I walk into 10 soldiers and I say, praise the Lord, or I have a meditation, I get 2 out of 10.
Right.
I go in with your stuff and I say, hey, how's your stress level?
Right.
Oh, and everybody starts breaking things. And so it helps him break those
Change
those
the
barriers.
change the dialogue a little bit. Right.
And unfortunately, the military stigma does exist.
Right.
And when I was at Walter Reed, I was introduced to the psychiatrist that was in charge of trying to destigmatize things. And I was in a table full bunch of doctors, and the general consensus is it's part of the warrior ethos. We can try as much as we're going to do it, but it's not going to change fast. It'll be very relevant on that.
Well, some people, I would imagine that is the case.
Well,
that it isn't going to change for some folks. Now, other people, if they feel like they're in a safe environment, are more likely to. True.
And that's why there's some of the people do ask for help, but the vast majority don't. And so this is a warrior can come to the site, look it up, download it. Nobody knows. Or they can, a friend, and this is great for family members to say, here, son, check this out. And it works very easily to help.
I was going to suggest, if you're a family member and you suspect that your loved one does in fact have PTSD issues, that you get this for yourself and get an education.
Oh yes, yeah, absolutely. And for those who this is a grassroots, meaning we've been around since 2006. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. We actually registered the name Patriot Outreach because in the day it was anti-war, anti-Bush, anti-military. They were leading soldiers astray, so we had to register the name so that it won't be misused.
Right.
And the 82nd Airborne Division ordered 5,000 CDs, one for all the soldiers.
Wow.
The Fort Hood, after the event, ordered 2,000 CDs already. The 91st Division ordered 3,000 CDs for their troops. And I got a nice note the other night from the Air Force Academy having it for their cadets.
Good.
And so little bit by little, the Marine, all the branches do it. The Veterans Hospital, they're like a confederation of organizations, whereas the Leavenworth VA says this is mindfulness. The Kansas City, Missouri VA is investigating it. The VA in Samoa, addiction therapists, and they actually quoted on here, is actually giving it out to troops. The VA in Phoenix directs people to our website. And the VA in Las Vegas ordered CDs for each one of their doctors. And so it's just slowly, there's no one benefactor that has a deep pocket and says, I want this to get out to the troops faster, here's a check, go do more.
Right.
It's just the nickels and dimes that kind of keep us afloat and keep us moving forward.
Now, do you suggest counselors, or that's up to the individual? I mean, what is your typical kind of phone call or question on your email for people that find themselves in this situation?
Actually, the addiction therapist, and the reason I liked it because the title of this person was addiction therapist, from Samoa. He says, I heard about it, send me some CDs. And we have the email progression. Wow, this is good stuff. It seems to be effective. Wow, this is great stuff. Hey, send me more. And you could see how what happened was once they start getting into the materials and see the results, that a lot of, we have I can't remember exactly, but the Navy Combat Stress Center in San Diego ordered a bunch of them, and the Military Racquetball Association endorsed us, along with the National Racquetball Association. The Salvation Army did one of our projects, and the result was so huge that they have to get a bigger venue, a bigger hotel, to have a bigger conference room to have more people in the next go-around, and they want to go national. The Veterans of Foreign Wars in Iowa gave out 8,000 CDs.
Good.
The Vietnam Veterans of America from Oregon is endorsing us. And so it's gone from local to state, and some of these might percolate up to national level. And of course, you have us on to help get the word out.
Now, you know, I belong to 3 veteran service organizations, Legion, Blinded Vets, clearly, and Disabled American Veterans, but you're not exactly that kind of veteran service organization, are you? I mean, can you compare and contrast? Do you have meetings? Are there chapters and various?
No, unfortunately. It's just word of mouth.
Okay.
I have a listing. One of our colleagues on the Patriot Outreach has compiled a list, and there's like over 300 plus organizations that do something for veterans.
Right, right.
More so today than a few years ago.
Right.
And everyone is doing their piece, and that's good.
Right.
This is the effective tool. Instead of talking about it, instead of pointing fingers, instead of complaining about it, we're one of the few that says, here's a tool, try it.
Okay, well, you know, what's cool about what you're doing is you're not threatening any veteran service organization, because they all are screaming for members, members, members. So in fact, you're there to help and assist veteran service organizations with the tools that you have that they can disseminate to either their members or individuals in their community.
That's true.
Okay.
I am a member of the VFW, a life member of VFW. I'm a member of the War College Association. I'm a member. I have like half a dozen organizations I'm like members of.
Right.
And I don't know, it's almost like a disease, and it's called the full plate syndrome.
Oh, is that what I've been suffering
and I think it's going to be a federal disease at some point, but I got so much, and when somebody comes in with it, it's just institutionally just more work.
Right, right.
There actually, I forgot about the Houston VA. You just remind me. The Houston VA, one of the interns that were from the college, and the VA had an intern program, and what they do is they get interns and then they come and join the staff.
Right.
There was a woman who was a captain Army that seemed to get no results. And he uses this and he likes it, and so he says, man, what the heck, and he says, try this out. And she came back totally a complete different person.
Wow.
And he said, wow. And he goes to his bosses, look, it works, it works. I got, and he goes, and the bosses go, yeah, well, where's your empirical evidence that it does work?
Right.
And that upset him so much that he's creating a study to hook up with the doctor at Walter Reed to do empirical studies to prove it works, not just have testimonials. Apparently testimonials is nice indicators, but not scientific value. Matter of fact, what's interesting, the Southern Baptist chaplain wrote an article about our tool explaining it from a faith-based point of view.
Right.
But when it's in Walter Reed with the chief psychiatrist, he said, shh, don't talk about faith-based. Mental health people want scientific. And so he said, I'll write you an article about how it works scientifically.
Right.
And to me, I don't care how you guys describe it as long as someone tries it.
Right. Well, frankly, I think it's the best of both worlds. Why not?
It would be,
right,
because you have the things. Now, also, one of the things that have unfolded over the last year is Goliath Pictures is starting to do a documentary on what we're doing.
Good.
And he's already interviewed Dr. Hayter, one of the chief psychiatrists, and the Fort Bragg was so impressed with the results that they're incorporating to their training, and is going out to they started a prayer breakfast, and they invited me down to speak there. And
now, is this
hopefully we'll do
likely to
something.
be on a cable channel, Where would we see
What,
this?
the documentary?
Yes.
Oh, Goliath Pictures, they're the big guys and things. I'm trying to figure out how you look in your tux, for the academies.
Right,
No.
right.
Well,
I mean, will this go to movie theaters,
I
or will
don't
you see it
know.
on HBO or
I don't know.
PBS?
I'm not
okay,
sure,
that's
Deanna.
on.
That's
well,
unfolding.
check their webpage, and you'll let everybody know. When you know, we'll know. Okay.
But it's really important to help get the word out, and it's really important to get the tool in the hand of somebody. And Dr. Hayter made the comment, and he says, by handing this out, Tony, you're only going to have like a 20% success rate. And I go, why? He says, well, it's not the quality or the content, it's getting someone to actually use it.
Right.
And I said, well, Doc.
Yeah, we all get things that we put away, and we'll get to it.
And I told the doc, I says, well, I got 1 million+ guys out there. I'll take 200,000 success stories.
Right.
That type of thing.
Right.
And the same thing too. Amber, who did her testimony, said she had this for a month and a half before she actually did it. The chaplain will tell you that he had it in his briefcase for 6 months before he actually looked at it. And he said, I wished I did it sooner. And all of them come back and say, I wished I did it sooner.
Right. Right.
But I think there's a time for everything. What I have experienced is it gives the right tools to the right people at the right time. Because you go to our site, we have audio, we have video, we have reports, we have articles, we have testimonials. And so when someone goes there, they can find what a smorgasbord of tools to help bridge the gap a bit.
Now, when you give a vet or an individual that is connected somehow or another, these coping strategies, and again, this would work for any PTSD, not necessarily military, do you hear back from people that, this really helped, but I'm still struggling? What do you suggest to those people? Or have you even heard that? Maybe this is so good you haven't heard that.
I have not anyone follow up and says, I tried everything and it doesn't work.
Okay.
I haven't. But I have heard a lot of people that do try it and hear the success stories on it.
That, I would think, would cause those people to share this.
Oh yeah, that's
to
why
others. It's got to be
why
a
it's
major
gradual.
trickle-down effect.
It's just soul-touching souls is what it boils down to.
Right, right. Now, in talking to your chaplain, because I've done several programs on PTSD, and I've always imagined getting some chaplain on board, those that suffer with PTSD, is it easier for them to get it together if they'd previously had some kind of faith or was a believer, or did, some people, I know it swings both ways. I always found this interesting. People can have faith and think, well, gee, God allowed this to come into my life. Where is he? It must be a bunch of bull. And then other people who weren't believers struggled and found God. I mean, it can go both ways. What is your experience on your knowledge about that?
Well, I will share you a tidbit. If you open up the thing here, there's a Dr. Hayter. He started off as an atheist and found the light and found God.
Oh, okay. There you go.
So,
and I did not read this, folks. It's too small a print, so I didn't.
And it doesn't say that here,
Right.
but I just happen to know the
okay.
personal story. But there seems to be a greater centeredness and awareness, self-awareness. And what I might do is I'll suggest the chaplain to come on the show and talk to you about it.
Okay.
I'm sure he does it. He did some radio interviews, and he's done the article that explains it. And I think that it's a good question. And
well, it's an interesting one, and I don't expect a canned answer because human beings being so complex, that's going to vary from person to person. But
I have, like I was going to say, is when I with the mental health people, religion and that faith-based stuff is quackery, and and then it's the Lord that guides me to the light, and the scientific. It's just amazing. But I have found out that the tools on here appeal to both, and the results from both seem to be impressive.
Good.
And one of the people I do know who does this is, it seems like the greater the problem you have, the more of the results that you get from it. And
let's remind folks, PTSD doesn't always well, it may rear its ugly head while you're in the military, but being a Vietnam era vet, you stuff it, you're kind of delusional, you think you got a good handle on it, and then something will trigger years after you've left the military because you've been stuffing it. This would be good for them as well.
Absolutely.
Right? So we're not just talking about our returning soldiers right now today. Because I met a guy that was a police officer, had been in Vietnam. 25 years later, he's in a gun battle. Oh my God, the triggers were terrible. So this is for anyone and everyone. Well, in our closing moments, tell the audience whatever you want to make a major point with. This is your time to do it, Colonel Tony.
Well, if I had to encourage anyone, go to the website. Forward the website to friends and people you think it might be needing help. Help get the word out. And if you've been blessed, provide a contribution so we get more CDs out to more troops faster.
Thank you. Thank you for being a guest on Veterans. And
Appreciate
thank you for all the things you're doing to really significantly help vets with these practical tools that you can send to them. Listen, this is PJ Scott, and we are still at War People. And I encourage you to pray for our troops. I encourage you to pray for families that have lost loved ones. And say a special prayer for those families that are taking care of catastrophically injured, wounded, disabled vets. That's a huge job. God bless you all. Thank you again, Colonel.
Thank you, Mike.
This is PJ Scott. Take care of yourself. See you next time.